In the United States, over the last decade, 60,000 pedestrians died under the wheels of an automobile. 1 million pedestrians were injured. Join us for the next half hour as we take a look at perils for pedestrians.
We're in Chevy Chase Village with Catherine Warren with a protest of the local residents in support of sidewalks. What's going on here?
Well, we've gathered people together because there's a meeting tonight of the Chevy Chase Village board, and we want to express to the board in a little more dramatic fashion our wish for sidewalks on this very dangerous couple of blocks on Brookville Road. The other sections of Chevy Chase have put in sidewalks over the last 10 years, and we really think it's time that the village did also.
And what are the issues involved here?
The issues are just reclaiming the right-of-way, which is at least 3 feet from the pavement, which would enable us to begin the process of putting in sidewalks. The village has gone ahead through its manager and applied for state money, a grant of $45,000 to be able to put in sidewalks. That would be approximately half the cost. The village would have to supply the other half of the money. Tonight they'll be discussing the pros and cons of sidewalks in general. And apparently some board members still feel that sidewalks aren't necessary. We just hoped to come out tonight to be able to show them otherwise, that lots of people were in favor of sidewalks.
We're here with Martha Jones, who's on the Chevy Chase Village Board of Managers, and we have quite a few protesters out here in support of sidewalks.
Yes.
What are the issues here?
The issues here are one of safety for pedestrians walking on either side of Brookville Road. You see the traffic in the background, and you can see the number of cars that we have. It's also a matter of sight lines from coming from the side streets, turning onto or off from Brookville Road. And we have that Brookville's a very old road, and it is a state road. When it was laid out, it was simply a carriage path, and now it's become a major thoroughfare. And getting the sidewalks put in, we feel, is extremely important for safety, both pedestrians and drivers.
We have here Bern O'Brien, who has lived in Chevy Chase Village how many years?
Actually only 2 years this time, but I was raised right up the street on Kirk Street, lived there for about 15 years, moving out back in the late 60s when this used to be a country lane.
And it's obviously not a country lane anymore.
No, not at all. And that's the part of the problem, is there is a contingent in the village that would like to keep Brookville Road as a sort of a country lane with no sidewalks. The problem is those of us with children traipsing back and forth down to the drugstores down here or up to the school and the church find it inconvenient to not be able to use the main street, which is Brookville Road. So we'd like to see the sidewalks completed from Primrose down to Western Avenue.
Okay, we're here with Jonathan Brandt, who has to travel along this road once in a while. What's it like without a sidewalk?
Well, very narrow. I mean, the streets are narrow, and when lots of big cars or trucks come along, it's hard to move from side to side because the streets are very narrow, and they're right between two of the two houses and fences, so there's no place to go. So you just have to smush yourself to the side of the road. It's very difficult sometimes to get across, to get around.
Okay, we have here Marie Warren in Chevy Chase Village. And what's your experience with Brookville Road?
Well, I've been living here for many years now, and we've never had sidewalks. We've really never gotten a chance to walk safely on Brookville and just be able to walk.
And have you and your friends had close calls with cars here?
Yeah, a lot of times we want to ride our bikes to other people's houses, and it's hard to get there without a good street to get there. And I mean, I like to go to my friends' house, and all of them are around this area, and it's hard to get over there when you can't. There's hard ways when there's no sidewalks, and it's kind of dangerous. So it's very risky. And also I have my dog here who I like to take for walks, and I can never get a chance to take her around this area because there's Brookville, and if I want to take her around the block, there's Brookville Road, and there's no sidewalk there, so it's very unsafe. You never get a chance to have her safely on Brookville.
I'm here with Timothy Warren in Chevy Chase Village. And where do you go when you're walking along Brookville Road?
I always go down to Brookville, and I'd walk my dog down that way. And I always come close to getting hit because there's no sidewalk and it's hard to get down there.
And what experiences do your friends have walking along Brookville?
They always walk with me, and it's just really hard to get down there without the sidewalk. And when I'm riding my bike, it's just a pain.
This is Christy Winsick, who's going to tell us what it's like along Brookville Road as a child.
Well, I wasn't allowed to walk on Brookville Road until I was 9 years old because there's so much traffic and there are no sidewalks. But if we had sidewalks, some younger children might be able to walk before they were 9. So if we had sidewalks, it would make it a lot easier.
Now you're a little older and you can walk along here. What's it like?
Well, it's especially hard to ride your bike. We tried yesterday and you had to stay on the gravel, but it was hard to ride your bike, so you had to walk your bike most of the way, and it was kind of boring. So it would be a lot more interesting if you could ride.
Okay, so the whole point of riding your bicycle is being able to ride your bicycle.
Right. And if you can't ride, there's really no point. So.
Okay. Now, do you have younger friends who still can't walk along Brookville?
Over there. Some, like, I know somebody who's like 4 who's not allowed to walk around Brookville yet, and I know somebody who's 7 who's not. My brother. So.
And so, what does he do when he needs to go down this way?
My mom has to drive him, and he'd rather go like walk or ride his bike and stuff, but he's not allowed to. So.
What does Mom think, having to drive him everywhere?
Mom gets tired of it.
We're in Chevy Chase Village still with Paul Warren, and you got quite a protest here on Brookville Road. What's going on here?
Well, it's a protest. We really wanted to let the village of Chevy Chase know of our deep concerns in the neighborhood, concerns of safety. We need sidewalks here, we need them desperately. But this has been true for really going on about 40 or 50 years. As traffic has increased here in Chevy Chase, as kids, more and more kids are walking along, there's always been a need here, but it's growing more and more important. There's been an injury here in the last couple of years. There has been, I know in the history of Chevy Chase, there's been at least 2 deaths of children on Brookville Road. This is a matter of grave importance, and it's important for the village to take care of this right as soon as possible.
Then I understand that money has become available for this, so why don't they take advantage of it?
I don't know. I think that they have a number of concerns. I think some of the residents, I think, have liked the idea that this is sort of a country lane view of Chevy Chase Village. Well, it's no longer a country lane. This is a major thoroughfare, and we need sidewalks here. Our children are more important than any kind of a country lane look. I think the majority of village residents would say that that's so. It's time for us to have sidewalks here.
We're in Alexandria, Virginia, at the intersection of King Street, Braddock Road, and North Quaker Lane. Our intersection of the month is a triple intersection this time. The 3 streets meet with a little triangle of forbidden land in the middle. Pedestrians loop around the outside. The problem is, a lot of the crosswalks aren't marked, curb cuts are missing, and there are no crossing lights. It's a real guessing game for pedestrians. Across Braddock Road behind me here, you can see the green light for the cars coming from the left, but when it turns red, you'd think maybe it'd be time to cross. What you don't know is that traffic coming from the other way just got a green arrow. You'd get about halfway across and get plastered. So if we wait until we see a green light for the traffic on North Quaker Lane, we'd have a problem. Traffic coming toward us gets the green first. All we see is the red. We're losing valuable seconds. By the time we see a green light for traffic heading our way, we've lost half the cycle. We'll get about halfway across before they get their left turn arrow, and splat, we're history. Would pedestrians want to be walking around here? I'd say yes. We're surrounded by retail, townhouses are right over here, and we're 1 block from a high school. Those people have to cross 30 lanes of traffic with no crosswalk signals to circle this intersection and get back to this spot. I'd say traffic engineers have a little work to do. We're in Columbia, Missouri, at the University of Missouri with Day Al-Mohammed, who is president of
Barrier Free. It's a student organization on campus dedicated to bringing down barriers about people with disabilities.
And how long has this organization been in existence?
Well, according to our last constitution, it's been in effect and working for the last 14 years. So we've been around a while.
And what changes have you seen on campus in that time?
Actually, it's been kind of nice to see. There have been quite a few changes. A lot more doors have the push pads, or they've been made lighter. A couple of residence halls were actually closed down to be made accessible and then reopened up later. So over time, things have been improving slowly but surely.
Now, one of your main roles is to promote awareness of people with disabilities and an educational role. Could you tell us about some of the activities you perform?
Well, we actually have quite a lot of activities going on. We have a disability simulation exercise, and what it is Barrier Free as a group. We'll train individual people and actually run through simulations. We'll take people in groups of 20 and let them try out a disability for a while, and then show you, well, this is what you would do if you had a disability to make it easier instead of just letting them loose on their own. We do a lot of stuff with regards to panels and providing speakers for the university, and we have a lot of big events occasionally, like we have a wheel-a-thon once a year, where we invite people to make up their own teams. We'll even give them a wheelchair without having to break their legs, and let them have a try at it. And wheelchair limbo, and wheelchair conga lines. Haven't lived until you've tried those.
I can imagine. Now, what are some of the issues that currently face you on campus? Some changes you'd still like to see?
Well, right now we're pushing a lot with regards to some of the stuff with regards to the traffic and the parking, because people are blocking a lot of curb cuts and a lot of crosswalks. And hey, I'm blind. I got a dog. I can walk around, but I've got a lot of friends who don't have that luxury, and they have to use that curb cut. And so if somebody's pulled past into the crosswalk, and they're in the street, they can't get back up onto the sidewalk, and that's not exactly a safe thing.
We're here along Scott Boulevard in Columbia, Missouri, with Heather DeMayan, who is...
I'm the Accessibility Housing Coordinator for Services for Independent Living, and I'm the president of the Columbia chapter of the Missouri Disability Rights Coalition.
Now, and I noticed Scott Boulevard here looks like it's brand new with brand new sidewalks, but no curb cuts. What's going on?
Frankly, I don't know. I called the highway department because they're the ones that put in these sidewalks, and they kind of skirted around the issue and then said, oh, those aren't sidewalks, they're mountable curbs. And I've seen mountable curbs. There's a lot of mountable curbs around Columbia, and I've seen them before, and these look nothing like them. These are about 9 inches high, very sharp corners with mailboxes mounted in them. Not something I would want to take my van in.
So maybe they meant to be mounted by Sherman tanks.
I assume so. Definitely not by any regular type of vehicle that I've ever seen, and much less wheelchairs.
And there are wheelchair users that try to travel along Scott Boulevard.
Yeah, there are. I'm on the City ADA Advisory Committee, and we have received complaints from residents on Scott Boulevard and people who drive on Scott Boulevard about wheelchair users they see wheelchair users in the road on their way to church before they put in these sidewalks, because there were no sidewalks. Now they put in sidewalks, but we still can't get our wheelchairs on them, so we still have to ride in the street, which is a very dangerous thing.
Since we visited Columbia, the Highway Department realized its error and went back to install curb cuts on Scott Boulevard. We're in Gaithersburg, Maryland with Patrice Means-Marlowe. Tell us, what sort of problems do you have walking around your neighborhood here?
I have some difficulty getting to the metro, the bus station, bus stop where I can go to the metro. There are no sidewalks on most of the places that I have to walk, and so I just take a shortcut. Most of the time I walk in the street. And when the cars come, I just stop, stand still, and wait for them to pass. And when I hear no sound, then I move on after that.
So would it be helpful then for you to have more sidewalks in your neighborhood?
Yes, it would be helpful. And also, I have a situation where there's a giant food store, grocery store, that's within walking distance. But the path for the giant food store is not good. It's a very dangerous spot for seeing people, so I don't go there at all.
Okay, and how do you get to the food store then?
Well, I take the metro bus at the regular bus station stop where I would normally take it, but I have to go all the way out to Montgomery College and then come back. So I'd have to transfer 2 buses, and then eventually I would get to the giant food store. So
it takes a little longer than walking, yes. I would think.
Yep, it certainly does. It certainly does.
We're here in Vienna, Virginia with David Gill. And tell us, what's going on here today?
We're doing a little bike rodeo, which consists of bike safety checks and just to let the kids realize and show and demonstrate their abilities when it comes to bike safety. Summertime is coming up, and we're just trying to get the parents, the community, as well as the kids to think about when they're going to be out in the summer on the roads or the bike path, just some of the concerns and problems they might arise to.
What sort of problems do young children have when they're riding their bike?
Well, the major concern that we are as a department is try to do injury prevention. That goes from how to wear the helmet the right way. You see a lot of kids wearing the helmets way back, exposing the forehead, so we want to try to prevent head injuries. And a lot of little things like checking the brakes. Are the brakes working properly? Are there oil? Is the chain greased? Just some of the things that parents can do. We do a bike safety check, and we have the parents come watch us so they can look at some of the things that they should be looking for, and hopefully they'll teach their children, so if they're out on the road and they see something happening, they can come home and say, Daddy, Mommy, something wrong with my bike. So hopefully just to raise awareness for the kids.
But that involves awareness for the parents as well.
Oh, most definitely. I think the parents do need to demonstrate and explain to the kids some of the safety concerns that they should be looking for as a parent, but for the kids could be looking for about cars. A little kid's not going to stop as quick as an adult on a bike, and like cars, and older people should respect that and try to, especially in the summertime, to look for that. So as a parent, community, as everybody should be looking for the kids' safety in bikes.
And what's going on with all these orange cones behind us?
Well, the orange cones is, this is part 3 of the bike rodeo we're doing today, and the children are demonstrating to us they know all the hand signals. They can stop at a reasonable distance. They can control their bikes pretty good. We have a figure 8, we have some cones to weave in and out, and that's just to demonstrate the youth to us that they can control their bikes reasonably well. And if they don't do it good the first time, we let them do it the second time, so they can feel comfortable turning tight turns, stopping quickly. And that's some of the real life situations that they might encounter, just to get them thinking bike safety.
With me is Officer Palmore of the Vienna Police. And tell us what you're trying to do here today.
Well, this is a bicycle rodeo that we have on an annual basis, and the rodeo's purpose is not only to have fun for the kids out here, but to enforce the safety importance of bicycle riding.
And we have fairly young children here, different age groups during the day, but I suppose we want to teach good habits early.
Right, good habits early, and a lot of times as the children get older, they start to feel like they can do anything without getting hurt and get a little gutsier, and it's to reinforce those rules that they probably learned when they were a whole lot younger but they just need to hear them again and remember them.
Now, what type of problems do you have with bicycles here in Vienna?
The biggest problem that we have is just the theft of bicycles. Thank goodness it's not a matter of people getting hurt as much, but we do have some accidents. We have accidents out on the street, and it's usually the bicycle being hit by cars out there, and it's that the drivers aren't seeing the kids riding their bikes out there, and the kids not remembering that, oh, I need to be a little more careful about being seen by the drivers out there.
So it's not just the kids need to pay attention to what they're doing, but the drivers need to look out for them as well.
Exactly, exactly.
Now, and I suppose to prevent theft, the best thing for people to do is what?
Lock their bikes. You know, it's such a simple thing, and they don't have to use an expensive or complicated or heavy lock. It's just a deterrent, and just to lock it when someone's even going into the community center to get a drink of water for 5 minutes, or going into 7-Eleven to get a drink there or some gum there. It's real important to secure your bike and lock it up. Even in the front yard of your home, it's important.
We have Officer Hogan with Vienna Bike Police. How long has Vienna had bike police?
I'd say around 4 or 5 years. They've had the bikes with the department and people patrolling on them.
And what advantages do the bikes have over your standard cruisers that everyone's used to?
Well, when you're on the bike, you're a little more approachable to citizens. You seem to make more contacts with the citizens, patrolling in the shopping centers and the parking lots. Citizens seem to approach you more, make more contact with you. It also allows you to get into areas that aren't as patrolled as often with police cruisers. Obviously, cruisers can't get into every spot, and the bike allows you to get into these spots and patrol them a little more in a more efficient manner and a quicker manner, and allows you to cover a lot of ground.
Other thing that would help us as police officers is if you haven't...
We're in Vienna, Virginia for the Bicycle Safety Rodeo, and I have with me Caleb Sacra, who just went through the course. Tell me, Caleb, what have you learned here today?
That bicycle warning is safety, and you always have to wear a helmet when you ride a bike.
Okay, did they teach you how to signal a turn?
Yeah.
How would you signal a right-hand turn? That's right. We're here just south of Alexandria with Jim Walmsley. Tell me, why are we here in the middle of Route 1?
Because this is my favorite spot for how not to cross the Beltway with a pedestrian. That in order for a pedestrian to cross the Beltway, they either have to stay traditionally on the left side of the road facing traffic and cross, if you're going northward, 2 high-speed acceleration lanes, and a deceleration lane. If you're going south, you have the same problem in the other direction, except they also have a merge lane as the acceleration-deceleration lane, all of which create major problems for you. The center of the road on the middle of the median is the safest place. No cars are going to cross it.
Now, is there any chance this intersection with the Beltway could ever be made more pedestrian-friendly?
The project as part of the Wilson Bridge project is to redesign the whole intersection. The redesign plans have not included pedestrians up to the present time. The sketch plan that they showed for a pedestrian was an afterthought, which has pedestrians crossing at grade level, high-speed moving cars going on and off the HOV lanes.
So they still need to do a little more work.
Right. They haven't finished their homework yet. In fact, they start out with where to put the cars and later think about the pedestrians. And that's not the way you should do your job. You should think about everybody all at once when you put together the whole plan.
What's this intersection like for someone on a bicycle?
Basically, from my point of view, it's a don't use the intersection place. It's a major barrier to biking. Very few bicycles cross at this point. Most of them go for the extra 2-mile ride down to the Mount Vernon Parkway and the bike path next to it. But for a bicyclist to cross this one, there's always the question of people wondering where they do belong on the road. And it's basically the right side of the right through lane. The problem with that is because this is a 4-lane highway, there are people who will come past a car following you and then cross your lane right where your bicycle is to get to an exit ramp. And there are 2 of them in this intersection, so you always got that problem when you try to ride across an intersection of this design.